Hey, what's up, everybody out there in internet land? Members of the Online Trainer Academy, OTA grads, PTDC members. We're here back with another live broadcast. We got a special one for you, a musically gifted live broadcast today. My name is Ren Jones, Renjones. I am an OTA grad. I graduated the first group from the Online Trainer Academy, and I am the owner at Fitness Jones Training. I've got a special guest for you guys today, but before I get to that, we got to give you something. I hope you don't mind. We got a giveaway for you. So we want you to chime in right down here, get on your keyboard. Let us know where you're viewing this from. We've got a great opportunity for you guys to win the highly wealthy online trainer box set. So we're giving that away. So don't hesitate to let us know as soon as possible where you're watching from, what you've got going on there. We want to give you this box set away. It's invaluable. Great implementable tools. You'll want this in your arsenal. But without further ado, our esteemed guest today has a philosophy that I certainly jive with as a personal trainer. We've checked each other out a little bit via the interwebs. We've got Dan Martin here today, and he's going to talk to us about how perfection probably isn't the best way to go en route to a fitness-oriented business. I'm not going to talk too much about him. I'm going to let him do that himself. Dan, thank you for coming on. And please, sir, share with us a little bit about your story, because you've got a really interesting origin story about how you got into the business. Let us know how that happened, Dan.
Yeah, hey, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. Very excited to be here today. So I guess I started really in fitness when I was pretty young as a competitor in track and field and cross country and swimming. And everybody kind of thought my path was going to lead to college athletics. But I ended up catching the music bug when I was a teenager and found out that I guess I had some talent for it. And when I was in my late teens, I took a demo tape out to New York City. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I just happened to bump into the right person. And the first tracks that I made on my dad's home computer with an old, some of you might not even know what it is, but it's an MS-DOS based program. Like, we're talking just numbers and letters. I made those tracks. They signed those tracks, and from there it became a whirlwind really for the next decade plus, where I wasn't really focused at all. I was focused on getting to the next city, playing the next show, putting out the next record, touring on that. And it wasn't until I was about to turn 30 when I realized, oh man, I'm getting out of shape and I need to do something about it. And I'm 43 now. That was 14 years ago. I went and hired a trainer and realized that I still had a lot of love for training, for working out, for getting so much so that it led me to be sitting here with you now. You know, I spent the last 14 years owning and operating a few gyms and running a nutrition service, and still feet on the floor working with clients. I worked with 5 clients this morning because I still love to. You know, still enjoy doing it.
That's amazing. So would you say that you sort of got into the business by, I don't like the word accident, maybe happenstance? If you had not sought out that trainer because the road had beaten you down, we probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, and you know what happens? I started working with that guy, and the first session that I had with him, I mean, I got sick bad. Like, I worked out super hard. You know, I kind of brought out that I'm going to how hard I can work sort of thing. Ended up like really not feeling good, going home with this raging headache, but stuck with it and kept training with him. And at the end, I guess it was kind of the end of the road with him. He really told me, I don't have anything else for you. You know, he was like, you've done everything that I told you to do. You followed the one-page nutrition plan program that I gave you. You did all these workouts and exceeded my expectations. I don't know what else to do. And I asked him at that point, where'd you get certified? And he told me about the different options that were kind of out there he had done and why he had done the certification that he did. And that day, after that last session, I walked home and signed up online for that certification, and kind of knew at that point that I was ready to start backing out of the music business. You know, it'd been a decade and it had taken its toll, and I was ready to kind of make a shift.
That makes perfect sense. So you literally wore him down to a nub.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody out there watching has ever had a client like that. And that was your entry point to this business.
Yeah.
I've got to ask you about the sort of the title of this broadcast and your philosophy, because it's so important. Talk to us about perfection, about improvement over perfection, just in a general context, and we'll dive into the specifics in a second. But just give us your general overview of that statement, improvement over perfection.
That's a mantra that I use almost every day in my interaction with clients, but also with myself. And I think a lot of it does go back to the music stuff, where you have to keep throwing noodles at the wall. You have to keep trying to do things. And a lot of times people end up getting stuck looking for that, whether it's a perfect training program or a perfect nutrition plan or the perfect track they're working on in music or a perfect painting, whatever it is, you get stuck and you're unable to keep moving forward because you're looking for that perfect, right? Which we all know isn't really out there. You're never going to get it.
Right. So this isn't on our agenda per se, but I think we both operate in the same groups, and there's a recurring question that comes up in the training groups, especially Online Trainers United, and it's this. And I think you're the perfect person, no pun intended. You're the best person to answer this. That one slipped, Dan. You're the best person to answer this question, because we see it all the time. Okay, guys, I'm a new trainer. I'm trying to decide between Trainerize, PT Hub, PT Distinction. I don't have clients. I haven't operated for the last 60 days of being a personal trainer because I just can't figure out which one is the perfect one for my business. Dan, what's your answer there?
I've never used any of those. But I've used a lot of different things. Goes back to a story when I first started becoming a trainer, when I decided that I was going to do it. The first outdoor group class that I was going to coach, we spent 2 months marketing it, myself and another guy, telling everybody that we knew this guy was already a trainer. I was getting certified, inviting person after person. There was an outdoor class. We show up to the park, 2 people. And he says to me, we should just tell him that, we'll meet up again some other time. And I think it probably comes from playing Tuesday nights in Omaha and Thursday nights in Lexington, Kentucky to 10 people, whether it's to 10 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, you do the same thing, right? You give the same quality no matter what. And a lot of times people get stuck in finding that perfect tool, finding that perfect software, finding the right way. Man, if I could say anything on that, on picking Trainerize, picking this or that, pick one and run with it, right? Pick one and run with it and do it. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but you can always go switch out your platform if you really need to. It's not as big of a deal as you think it is, or as those platforms want you to think it is either.
Right. That's an amazing statement, because we get caught up in the deliberation so much that we never get into the action, and that's so crucial. So let's talk about some key points, because you've got some great takeaways here in regards to this process, and sort of your first key point is about good days and bad days. Talk to us about that. We talked briefly before this about stacking things What does that mean in terms of your business? And in some ways in terms of clients, but really in the context of your business. What do you mean by stack good days, not bad days?
When you wake up, set yourself a task list. I know that OTA and John and have the three key points the night before, right? You go to bed, you write down your 3 key points to wake up and do the next day. And for me, that's a beautiful thing, because many times you get too caught up in, there's this huge accumulating list of tasks that you've got to get through, and it seems like it's an impossible thing to do. But one little day, one little action, one little thing can make a huge difference as long as you keep doing it over and all effect, right? Or cumulative interest, or whatever you want to call it, where good stuff just begets more good stuff. So like you said earlier with being better and not perfect, the same thing goes for me for business. I know I'm going to make mistakes, and I constantly do, but as long as I've woken up and done the best I can and try and stack the more good days on top of more good days versus any bad days, I feel like I've done a little bit each day and nudging the business forward, bumping the business forward towards better stuff.
That makes perfect sense. And how do you know, do you have a systematic process that you use to execute that? How do you know that you're stacking good days, or is there some data collection for that?
I was looking around to see if I had one in the room that I'm in, but I don't. It's a yellow notepad. that is my data collection system. Now, I do own and operate 3 gyms, and I do have a nutrition service where I work with about 100 clients. So I do use software to operate those, but on a day-to-day basis, my list is a handwritten list, and I go through and I physically mark those things off, and I take great pleasure in doing that. It's when I read in the OTA course that was part of the process, I was like, oh, this is exactly what my dad used to do. Style, yellow legal pad. And I still do that when I walk through. I will take it through the gyms, just a problem shoot. If there's dirt in a corner, or a barbell needs to be cleaned, or whatever it is, I'll just make the note and assign whoever's task it is to that, and walk through and check them off. Yeah.
Old school, man. I love it. It doesn't have to be complicated, I guess. And I love that. I love the practicality of doing it on the spot. How important is it in your mind that when something needs to be categorized, that it's done on the spot, that you got something handy to record it? Because we always think, oh, I got to make a mental note of that. Does that work in business, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Those lists, writing down key items and crossing them off, and then taking that list and carrying it over to the next list, is huge for me. Whatever works for you. Some people choose to do it on their phone. I'm really still a write it down with pen and pad kind of guy. I do keep a schedule on my phone and all that stuff, but yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's like, even if I'm training clients, they get used to me, between sets, grabbing a dry erase marker and jotting something down. It might be a type of shirt that they're wearing. It might be a book that they recommended to me. It might be the dust in the corner over there. But it's a part of the ongoing process of my day-to-day. Whether it's operating the gyms, operating the online nutrition service, or online coaching. Yeah, without that note taking, I think a lot of times I'd be lost.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because it's just hard to go back. You can't remember everything, right? You need a process. You talked a little bit before we came on about just the lifelong aspect of things. which is really another point that's crucial to your better over perfect. Talk to us about the lifelong aspect, and in some context, I know that means clients, but it applies to business as well. Touch on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, so I think we're chatting a little bit about the challenge mindset that's kind of in the fitness industry nowadays, and we and we've kept a lot of the same clients over that lifespan because the mentality is, I want to help you live to 100, right? I want to be your coach until we're both 100. Like, not because it's a job, not because it's anything more than a calling, where I feel like these surround me, this group of hundreds of people that are relying on me for health, wellness, fitness, all that stuff, deserve to have that long-term mentality, right? And understand that myself as a fitness coach and as a nutrition coach are there with them, charting the course, that long haul. So that 100-year mentality is a big thing for me. No short term, long term.
Right. We briefly discussed the incessant challenges, and we understand it. But you're saying that
True.
the long play may be the secret sauce here in the industry at this point.
Man, yeah, so I've owned 4 gyms. I now have 3. I would say my biggest mistake in business was opening that 4th, because one is in my hometown. It's 1,500 miles away from me. I can't do much for it other than guide it from the outside with a long arm. The 2 down here are great, and they're close enough where I can really know everybody. I know almost every client by first and last name. I know what they do for a living. I know, their husband or wife's name. I know, a lot. When we opened up that 3rd location, it was about 40 miles away, and it quickly became a game of commodity over relationships, and that was the biggest mistake that I made. Biggest mistake that I made was trying to compete on that instead of trying to compete on the unique skill set that myself and my team have. Our story, my partner's story. My partner's an ex-Green Beret with combat experience who's seen a lot, and just those things that make you unique are your advantage. And if you try and compete with the big dogs, they're going to outspend you, man, into the ground. You can't compete with Orange Theory on their advertising budget. You can't compete with any of those guys. You've got to be exactly you and embrace exactly what you are and who you are and where you came from and what your story is. And you'll find people that will identify with that. They're out there. But it's easy to get caught up in the chasing the big dollars, the 6-figure, 7-figure, or one quick trick or one easy step. Man, that doesn't exist. There's no quick trick people are like, what's the secret? And my joke answer, but my serious answer now is like, there's a really easy process to get fit and stay fit. And people are always like, what is it, man? What is it? I'm like, okay, write this down. Are you ready? 5 days a week, you're going to exercise. 6 days a week, maybe 7, you're going to eat really well. And you're going to do that for a decade. We'll meet again in a decade, okay? That's the secret to being fit. And I think that's the secret to business too, is the ability to have staying power. And even when it's difficult, if I would have quit each time that, let's say in the music days when I had a bad show, or in the early trainer days when I was training people in the park for free, or when I was just starting to get clients and maybe didn't believe in myself, and thousands of times, multiple times a day, I still have that where I'm like, geez, am I out of my league. Even before we got on this call, I was like, I've done podcasts now. I do these video chats with people, and I'm still like, me? Okay, all right.
I totally get that. So let's translate this into the online side. That's a lot of what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
So for the new online trainers out there who are right now caught up about the numbers, they don't have the numbers. They want the numbers. I need 100 people to train online. What's your message to that new online trainer that's just caught up about the numbers? Is that where the focus should be?
You don't want 100 clients right now anyways. You don't want 100 clients until you have the systems and processes to deal with that. Do 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 5, and do them amazingly well, and the rest will come, right? Most of our business has been referral driven, and especially my online nutrition business has been referral driven. Like, over half of my clients now are aging music guys that are like, I've seen what you've done through your posts, and I see your results and the results of other guys and girls in my situation. I'm ready to make a change. It's and it's grown slowly but surely as I've gotten those results for people. I'm at, I probably have about 100 nutrition clients now, but I have help managing that. And when I first started, I took a group of people that I knew, and I did this with training too. When I was training people in the park, and I gave it to them for free I think it was with nutrition, I did 4 people, proof of concept had been done on me. Now I wanted others. I got a hold of people that I knew that had weight to lose and said, if you give me your all, I'll give you my all. And then they just went and told their friends, and those friends told other friends, and that's how it's continued. Yeah, the attraction to quick growth. I get it. I'm still in that headspace some days where you want more leads, you want more clients, you want more, but you have to understand what comes along with that. More clients equals more billing, equals more admin, equals more overhead, equals, online space is a little bit better as far as the overhead, but it's still going to get more difficult to deal with that. So you better have those systems and practices in place before you go there. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't play Madison Square Garden in front of 50,000 before you rehearse the song.
Yeah, man.
You have a bad show.
You gotta play Omaha on a Tuesday night 50 times, and refine those songs.
We love you, Omaha. Shout out to Omaha. So let's roll into something that's really, really important here. And we get this is it. I mean, you're speaking right to the heart of the people, because I see these questions all the time in our groups, and that's giving up on the client. When is deploying empathy in that situation? Talk to the trainer right now who's got a difficult online client, which is a unique situation because you're not there with them. Talk to us a little bit about deploying that empathy and not quitting on someone.
The number one thing I would say is get on the phone and get to the root of the problem. But I always do that first. My first, after a couple messages, I try and get on the phone with people and talk, because when you start talking to people, more than talking, listening to people, really, really digging in and listening, you're going to find out what they really want, and you're going to be able to motivate them based off of that. It can get really frustrating if somebody's not being compliant, because the whole thing happens where they want to blame you, or you at least feel like you're getting part of the blame. Even though you might know you have the best program in the world, this person's not getting results, and they start passing that blame off on you. Man, I've got logs and logs and logs of conversations, and I should probably have a psychology master's by now from all of this back and forth that I've done. But you've got to find ways to number one, not take it personal. That's something that I did for a long time, and I've kind of gotten over. But don't take it personal. They're not cutting down you. It's usually their own insecurity that is part of the issue. Get creative. Don't stop. If somebody, if someone ghosts you, that's one thing. But if they're not being compliant, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, find out what makes them tick. Dig in, get on the phone, spend 15 minutes just listening to what their issues are. And I bet you're going to help solve that problem. But just that 15-minute phone call is probably going to prolong that relationship by years. Because how often nowadays do you have somebody call you up, whether you're paying that person or not, and say, tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's going on.
Never.
And then just stop and listen. And just listen. Most times people are so caught up in the hustle and bustle, social media, email back and forth, that when you do that, they're like, whoa, okay, this person really, really does care. They really do want results for me. They really are invested in what, is being offered. And usually you can turn that ship around. Now, I'm not going to lie. Even in the past 3 months, I've had people that I wasn't able to, and I got, gotten some really nasty messages back. That's just part of the game. Sometimes you just have to deal with that and say, okay. I usually bounce it off my wife, and she's the one who brings me back down to reality. She's like, it's not you, right? Like, she's a member of my program. She's like, your program works, right? Like, that this is good stuff and you're doing great stuff for a lot of people, and I'm like, I know, but I still thank her for doing that for me.
Absolutely. It's a unique situation because it's really, really hard not to take it personally. Like, it's super hard not to take it personally. You've got all your information, you graduated, stuff now. John Goodman said you're good to go. You've got a certificate. And then someone comes along and how dare you? How dare you question? I really think the heart of what you just explained, Dan, really is that point, just not to take it personally. I think everything sort of blooms out of that one action as a coach. That's so profound. Could you share with us? You talked a little bit about how under your own situation sort of helps with dealing with those difficult client situations. Are you speaking about the difficulty that you may have caused to someone else, or are you just speaking about just things that you've gone through?
What I'm speaking about in general is my own battle with alcoholism, and as I was touring and playing music and all that, that became my crutch and my vice. In recovery now, it's been 5 years. I feel amazing. I've got a strong support system around me of other fitness professionals that have gone through the same thing, and have even more time under their belt, and great friends that support me in that. But it allows me to empathize with people who are in similar situations, whether it's addiction or whether it's overeating or whether it's just not being in shape. That story, a lot of times when I'm able to share that with people, makes them realize that I'm human. Now I'm a very fit guy, and you see pictures on the internet and everybody thinks, oh, that's how you've always been. But when I'm able to share my own transformation, my own before and after, and my own battles that I've had, it goes a long way. And it took me a long time to be comfortable even saying the word alcoholism. You may have noticed that I kind of even still had a pause before I said it. Walking into that first meeting was like one of the hardest things. I remember walking in and I was thinking, man, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to see a client. And sure enough, I walked in.
No way, man. No way.
Yeah. And there's a client, and, we just kind of acknowledged each other, and he was like, I haven't seen you here before. And I'm like, first time, man. And he's like, no way.
Wow.
He never mentioned it outside. He never said anything about it again. Just anyways, yeah, being able to share that and being able to empathize on that level. I was kind of known as a wild child in my music days, and a lot of people who I work with now still know me as like the person that I formerly was. I had hair down to the middle of my back, and my beard was out to here, and rough looking dude. So having people who I knew from back in the day, being able to see that transformation, but also being able to say, hey, I've been through this stuff too. The first workout that I did was horrible, didn't end well. kept going back. And there's still, I'm sure you even have them as a fitness professional, days that are tough, man. You probably eat the wrong things. You probably didn't get in the greatest workout of your life. Maybe you're not at 10% body fat like you used to be, still have those hard days.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's part of for the folks out there that are new trainers, and heck, even for the experienced ones, in from your perspective, Dan, is our human story as important, if not more important, than our story of education? Is it more important to a client in your estimation that I've got 3 certifications from NASM, or that, hey, brother, I've been through that. I dealt with that. Talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important for the folks out there who are working with humans every day to get sort of a perspective on that.
The first paying client I ever had, trained him in the park. He's still a client to this day. He was the only person, talking from that day 12 plus years ago till today, the only person who has ever asked me about my credentials. Ever, period. He asked me, are you certified? And I said, no, but I'm getting certified. I'm doing the education now, right? I still want to help you. Are you okay with that? He said, yeah. His mother has come to me. His brother has come to me. His sister has come to me. His nieces and nephews have come to me. But the amount of times that I've shared my story, or someone has story and has ended up coming to me, I can't even count it anymore, man. It's a 1,000 times more important, 1,000,000 times more important. I don't know, because when it comes down to it, whether it's NASM or ISSA or whatever, so the CrossFit certification, whatever certification you have, there's 20,000 other people out there who have that same certification and have the same knowledge. There's only one of you who has that unique story, right? There's only one Ren that has the story of being part of an R&B group in the 90s and going and playing the Apollo, right? Like, who else has that story, man? I guarantee there's probably not, maybe one other guy on the planet. I don't know. Probably not, though, right? Yeah, that story that story crosses boundaries for people. It created an immediate connection between you and I, but also, I'm sure, to a lot of other people that you've talked to over the years. Same thing with me, and the ability to be about it. For a long time with my whole music career, I kind of hit it when I was starting my training year, and then people kind of started slowly finding out, and they're like, why don't you talk about this? And I'm like, I don't know, I was a bit of a ruffian, wild child reputation. And they're like, that's the story, man. That's amazing. And you realize that, like, all these guys that might have a doctorate or a master's in this or that, or they're successful financiers, or what, they're MDs at this point, they love hearing those stories. They're like, while we're training between sets of bench press, they're like, what was it like in Lithuania, man? Like, how do what was it like playing for a crowd in Slovenia? Or like, what was Brussels like? It was like, and I can share that story, and the parts that I remember anyways, I can share that story, really kind of create a lasting bond. They don't really care about anatomy so much, man. They care about feeling better, and that connection, that relationship, and that comes from sharing that story.
100%, Dan. I share mine all the time, and we'll talk briefly about that when we get off the lot. Well, actually, I know you got to go, but I just want to pop up. We're running out of time, but I want to pop up one comment for you. You may not be able to see it, but I'm going to read it for you, and it's from Ron Rodriguez. Ron's in Jacksonville, Florida, and he just said, "Wow, he's 48 years old, and Ron actually played live music for 7 years and never thought about that as his unique factor." That USP, that unique selling proposition. He just wanted to say thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your ideas, which instantaneous proof of concept of what you just said about sharing your story and connecting with people. Up until this point, Ron could have been like, who's the weird guy in the NASM shirt and the cool guy on the other side? But because this is a lesson for you guys out there in internet land, man. Share your humanity. People want to know who you are and what you do. They're going to gravitate towards your humanity. Dan, we run out of time. We could talk for hours, brother. I mean, the nuggets that you've got so far have been invaluable. But I know you've got things that you got to get on to. We wanted to keep a really tight schedule. Hey, thanks so much. But before we let you go, where can we find you, Dan?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. I'm wearing the shirt right now. It's thedanplandiet.com. That's my new.
Oh, Dan, you might have chimed out a little bit. Until he comes back on, guys. Okay, here he is. Go ahead and repeat that for us, Dan.
Find me on social. Yep. So thedanplandiet.com is the website. I'm easy to find on social media, and I will actually answer your questions. If you message me, I'm happy to talk. If you're a younger trainer out there, don't be afraid to hit me up. I'm one of those old dogs that is happy to talk to the young guns and kind of share my experience and my story.
I love it. Great insight, Dan. Amazing story. I mean, gosh, just an amazing story. Guys, share your stories out there. Dan, I appreciate your time. For those folks that were able to watch live, we appreciate you. If you're coming back to catch the replay, thanks for coming back to watch. And eventually we'll bounce these down to a podcast. So if you listened to the podcast, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you guys again tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Dan, my friend, pleasure to meet you. I'm going to be linking up with you. I want some of that knowledge myself, sir. And we'll see you guys next time. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
See you later. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dan.